I've got cerebral palsy that affects both my legs and one arm. That's my official diagnosis, but what you really see is I walk with a limp. I'm a software developer, so job-wise, I don't have any issues. I knew when I was a kid that using my brain is the best way for me to survive on my own without relying on other people. I haven't had the chance to get my driver's license, but according to therapists and doctors that shouldn't be an issue. That's the background about me. My girlfriend and I have been together for a year. We met back in April 2020 of last year, and we decided to get together in May 2020. I told her about my disability before then, but she wanted to try and make it work. We video call on Discord every day, almost always when we're awake, and recently we've been going on dates. She's more than happy to lend me an arm, and she notices things about me that even I miss myself. Outside of my family, she's the most loving and caring person I know, and she's my motivation to do better and improve myself. Honestly, I never thought I could find someone I trusted enough to share my more negative thoughts and problems. I always tried to seem happy so I don't worry others. The emotional support she gives me is really irreplaceable. The problem is scared that, in the future, she will have to take care of me, or most of the work will fall onto her. To make matters worse, her mom has been telling her for the past few weeks to break up with me because she can find better, and she doesn't want her to have the burden of caring for me. She's also really afraid that I will get arthritis early due to my cerebral palsy, and if that happens, a lot is going to be on her. I've tried doing things like stretches and exercises to maintain and improve my muscle tone, but she is still afraid I'll get worse. I'm an introvert, I don't know a lot of people, and honestly, I don't even know the options I've got to look at. I want to prove that I can be independent and that if things do go wrong, it won't just be on her. I'm in Ontario, Canada. Are there things I can look into and do to assist with my disability, or things I can look into so if things do go wrong, I won't be a burden on her? I'm at the end of my wits. I've never really hated my disability, but I've always kept myself going by tempering my expectations and thinking, my disability is going to make it really hard to find someone, and she's the first person to make me feel like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I want to do anything to show her that I won't hold her back in the future, but I'm out of ideas. Is there anything I can do? I don't want to worry anyone I'm with these issues, but I'm at the end of my wits. I don't even know if my relationship is lost, but I don't want this to happen again, and I want to know what I can do myself so I can reassure my partner, so they know I won't hold them back in the future. I don't know if there are things I can look into to better plan my future so it's not a concern for my partner. The worst part is, I've always thought my disability doesn't matter. But with all of this happening, it's really hard to convince myself otherwise. My boyfriend and I have been together about a year, and when our city implemented lockdown for the virus, he decided to quarantine with me at my apartment as I live alone and have a nicer apartment, and he has several roommates. Mostly it has been going well, and thankfully we both still have jobs. Except in the first few weeks I started noticing that the bathroom floor was suddenly always wet around the toilet. The sink is across the room from the toilet, so it's unlikely to be from the sink. At first I thought it might be water, but soon realized that it was definitely pee. I asked boyfriend about it nicely, and he apologized and said sometimes he has bad aim. I asked him to try a little harder, and he said sure. The floor continued to be frequently spattered with piss. And a few weeks later I confronted him about it again because I think it's pretty gross to step in his pee several times a week. And it seems like an easy thing to fix. If he misses the toilet, I think the very least he could do is make sure to wipe it up with toilet paper or a Clorox wipe. The cleaning supplies even live in a cabinet directly over the toilet. He said sure, sorry, he would try to remember to do that. Another week has passed, and while maybe he's doing this sometimes, I've continued to step in splatters of his pee and wipe it off the floor and clean the floor several times a week. I thought about asking him to just pee into the bathtub or something instead, because I don't understand how you can pee on the floor by accident so often and not notice and not clean it up. Last night I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night and absolutely stepped in piss, for the 12,312,301,298th time. I had it, and I didn't want to pick a fight or ask him again since it seems clear he can't or won't change. So I got one of my dog's wee pads from when he was a puppy, he is well trained now, and cut it up a bit and taped it down to make a sort of skirt or mat around the floor near the toilet to at least absorb the piss. boyfriend saw this morning and is furious with me, saying that I'm calling him a dog, comparing him to an animal, etc. Honestly, I was not thinking that at all. I just was trying to be resourceful and solve the problem for myself since I don't like piss on my bathroom floor, and don't like stepping in it. I didn't feel like arguing about it anymore. And putting a material specifically meant to absorb pee around the area he keeps peeing on by accident seemed like a practical solution. Since my wife and I got married 3 years ago, things have been off. I know that people grow and change with time, but around our wedding, my wife changed drastically. She bleached her dark brown hair blonde right before the ceremony. And I honestly thought I was in the wrong church for a split second when she came down the aisle. We moved into our house right after the honeymoon, and she went into full domestic mode. We'd shared cleaning duties before, but once we moved into the house, she became insistent on doing everything before I could even get to it. Since this is our first house, I thought it was some kind of homeowner nesting thing, but it never stopped. Her hair color is none of my business, and I think most people would be happy not to have to clean. So I honestly didn't really think much of either of those things at the time. The big thing has always been how closed off she got after the wedding. When we were dating, she'd tell me long rambling stories about her feelings and rant to me when she was upset and all that. And I liked hearing about what was going on inside her head. After the wedding, that stopped pretty abruptly. If I ask her how her day is, she will only ever tell me that it was fine or super. She doesn't talk to me about her feelings anymore, ever, even when I explicitly ask, "How do you feel about X?" She also stopped telling me about anything important that happened to her. About a year after we got married, her grandfather died. Did she tell me she'd lost her grandfather? No. She told me that she had to go to a conference for work on the other side of the country, which I thought nothing of. On the second day she was gone. Her older brother texted me to tell me that my in-laws had really missed seeing me at the funeral. When I called her to ask why in the ever-loving hell she didn't tell me, and then lied about it, all she would say was, "I didn't want to trouble you. You have a lot on your plate." After that, she went on a couple of spontaneous family trips. She's really close to her family, so the first time she said she was going camping with her brother at their alma mater. I didn't think a lot of it other than to be slightly disappointed and confused that I wasn't invited. Because her brother's cool and the three of us go camping together a lot. But the second time, I started hearing alarm bells. I'd like to say I'm a more secure man, but after the second spontaneous family trip, my wheels started spinning and I started to think that maybe she was cheating. This was a weird insecurity in the back of my mind for a while, since she wasn't showing any other big signs of cheating. She wasn't guarded about her phone and hadn't changed her routine / appearance. A few weeks ago, she told me she was pregnant. I was over the moon about it until I asked her how many weeks along she was, and she nonchalantly said about 12 or 13. She'd been pregnant for like 3 months before she even bothered to tell me. She's not really showing at all, and she doesn't usually drink, so I had been completely in the bloody dark. I honestly hadn't even suspected. That was kind of it for me. I was sure she was cheating, and that it wasn't my kid. I thought there was no possible way that a woman would keep her pregnancy a secret from her husband for 3 months. So I snooped. Yes, I know I was wrong, but I wanted proof that she'd been having an affair before I moved out. One of my best buddies from college is a divorce attorney, and when I asked him what I should do, he sent me the info for a key logger. I installed it on my wife's laptop and was prepared for the worst. Now, I feel like what I found is somehow worse than her cheating. I didn't find any steamy messages, but I found out that she keeps a diary in a Word document that she writes in every day. I know I should have just stopped once I knew she wasn't cheating, but once I saw my name in her diary, I couldn't stop. I read all of it. All 7 separate documents, going back to way before we'd even met. Turns out she's not cheating. She's depressed, hates herself, and has absolutely no trust in me. All of the stuff I've been confused and bothered by has some kind of sad, self-loathing explanation. She hates having blonde hair, but she writes, "I know he'd divorce me if I went back to being a brunette." Because wives are supposed to be blonde almost every week. The "wives are supposed to be" thing is tangled up in everything. She thinks wives are supposed to be quiet, which is why she doesn't talk to me anymore. She thinks wives are supposed to make things easier for their husbands, not harder. Which is why she didn't tell me when her grandfather died. It just goes on and on and on. She didn't tell me when she got a huge promotion and a raise because he'd leave me in a heartbeat if he knew I made more money than he does. Men can't handle that. It hurt to know that she thinks of me as some kind of one-dimensional 1950s husband. And I've been racking my brain to think of anything I could have done to make her think this way. What I can't handle is that she'd lied about the big stuff. I honestly don't know if I can forgive her for not telling me about the miscarriages. The spontaneous family trips were actually her miscarrying 2 of our children, one at 5 weeks, the other at about 10. She went and stayed with her parents while she was recuperating, and her brother and sister came to support her. But not me. I didn't get to be there for her, because she thinks I would leave her immediately if I knew that she'd killed our children. She's convinced that she caused both miscarriages because she smoked pot for a long time before we got married. For what it's worth, it sounds like her family tried both times to get her to tell me, but she wouldn't. She finally told me about this pregnancy because her parents threatened to tell me she didn't. I'm just absolutely confused. I don't even know what to think right now. I'm just so baffled because everything she says about me in her diary is insanely nice. She goes on for pages and pages about how much she loves me and how she thinks I'm her soulmate and how she would do anything for me. I just can't understand why she thinks that I would leave her. Knowing that she's spent the last 3 years walking on eggshells around me, convinced that I would leave her at the drop of a hat is just so confusing and awful. I feel like our marriage is some kind of lie. The woman I thought was self-confident and ready to take on the world is actually full of self-loathing and really, really depressed. I don't know her at all. She's been suffering silently with depression long before we met. She has no faith in me, no trust. She thinks that every hug and kiss I give her and every "I love you" I say is a lie. I just don't know what to do. She obviously needs serious help, but I don't know how to get it for her. I can't tell her that I read her diary. If she has zero trust in me now, I can't even imagine what she'd think if she knew if I read 6 years worth of her private thoughts. I feel like I need to get my in-laws on board somehow, but I don't know what to say to them. I know I can't ignore this, but I feel like any move is the wrong move. I have a friend from high school who has a teenage daughter that recently started having fainting spells. I remembered that my nephew had this issue as a child and texted in Messenger to ask my older sister about what they found out about him and if it sounded like my friend's daughter. I asked via text because she is pretty busy. She answered that he still has it and it's a condition he has with anxiety and it overwhelms his heart sometimes. An hour or so later she started talking, again, via text, about how her son and daughter, both young adults now, are mentally handicapped and have psychotic episodes. Saying that the daughter totally made up the flea issue they had in their house and her mental issues caused her to break out in hives. This made me confused as I've been with her kids and even took my niece on vacation with us so she could ride the slides with my husband. Not my thing anymore, and she was perfectly fine. Well, an hour later my sister texted me saying all of that was not her. After she had told me about her son's anxiety issue, she had went to work and her husband. Yes, her husband had pretended to be her and even Googled all this BS up. I already had issues with her husband. He has lied and has had other issues before. To say I was angry is an understatement. Her husband, who is not her children's father, was bad-mouthing and telling me her kids are mentally unstable. Carl already has a past of being like this to her kids and my sister went along with it. I told her, that was it. I'm done. I went no contact for the past month, although I kept in touch with the kids. She has a younger son, age 15. And he does not get along with her husband, either. I told the elder too what he had said so they had a heads up. My sister defended him initially but apologized 2 days ago. I told her that her husband needs to apologize for himself, though. He is a grown man. Until then my kids and husband will not be attending anything outside of holidays at my mom's house, their neighbors. My mom can visit or I can visit her, but my kids will have nothing to do with her husband. Even after the apology, he will not be family to me or mine. He is deeply homophobic, drunk every time we visit, and racist. He is the reason my sister is not someone I want to raising my kids if something happened to us. My mom told me I should let it go, because family, but my husband backs me 100%. He claims he thought I knew it was him because they share a FB account. He was looking at other women's accounts and talking to them. So my sister insisted they share an account so he would not do that. Even if it were him not pretending to be my sister. He was spreading lies about two people I care for deeply.